Alright guys, so there was a recent interview with a producer and the series director of Dragon Ball Super, and I thought there were a number of interesting tidbits in there that I wanted to kind of go over in video format, including some hope I now have for the ending of Dragon Ball Super. Obviously, this video is going to be super spoilery, so be prepared, but after the recent spoilers for the ending of Dragon Ball Super, you know, where Ultra Instinct Goku is defeated by Jiren, and then Frieza basically comes out of the rubble to be the last fighter against Jiren, I was very pessimistic about how, I want to say, well done the ending would be, but there's some hints in this interview that the ending could actually be quite interesting, and I don't know, there is one thing that does kind of go against it, which we'll talk about, but I'm kind of intrigued. So, obviously, big shout-outs to Herms98 over on Twitter for all of the translations, and of course, we'll look at the full interview over on Kanzenshuu. So, let's go ahead. Let me first start with a couple of tidbits that Herms kind of brought up right here. So, yeah, the Dragon Ball official site has an interview with Dragon Ball Super Series director Ryota Nakamura and producer Satoru Takami on the Universal Survival arc. Here's a summary of everything said about Toriyama's original draft for the arc, plus two vague things about the end. These are kind of like some points that Herms kind of just like some key plot points, right? We'll go ahead and take a look at this for now. So, Toriyama's initial proposal outlined the idea of 80 people fighting in a jumble and included several character design images, plus the design for the tournament arena. So that is interesting to know that like the Universal Survival arc is actually like all Toriyama's idea, because I know there was a lot of discussion about like what parts were attributed to Toriyama and what parts were attributed to Toyotaro, but here we do see that the animation staff at Toei did definitely have a large hand in several of the characters. So Toriyama first drew designs for Jiren, Toppo, and Dispo, obviously the three main members of the Pride Troopers. His original draft lacked any indication of Jiren's personality, so the anime staff planned on making him a talkative character. However, when they basically told this to Toriyama, he said that Jiren is a character who does not speak, so then Toriyama sent them the backstory of Jiren's parents and martial arts master being killed. Now, personally, I did think Jiren's backstory, I don't want to say it was cliche, I just thought it wasn't done well enough. There was not enough explained in there. Like, obviously, they wanted to keep it brief and kind of open-ended with, like, oh, who killed Jiren's parents and stuff. Or maybe even more of a focus on the fact that that part is not specifically important. Like, who it was that killed Jiren's parents doesn't matter in the grand scheme of Jiren's character. It just kind of was what put him on his path and how we see him in the Universal Survival arc, right? So I get that, but I do feel there were key things that needed to be explained that were not, like Jiren's strength. Jiren is literally stronger than all of the Gods of Destruction, Goku, and everyone we've ever seen in Dragon Ball, basically. I feel, well, maybe, obviously outside of the Daishinkan, I would assume, but we needed to get more than just, yeah, his parents died, his master died, all of his friends abandoned him, so he just got super strong. Like, that is not quite good enough. I wonder if the fact that Dragon Ball Super is ending maybe prevented them from going over it in as much depth as I would have liked, but I don't know. I do think it's mostly agreed upon by a lot of people that Jiren's backstory definitely could have been better. As a result, Toppo inherited the anime staff's original plans for Jiren's personality, which is why he talks a lot, and shouts out justice and all that stuff all the time. Which is interesting because I actually did really like that side of Toppo. Like, I would say I was, like, a big fan of Toppo up until, he did his little bitch boy move of giving up on all of his ideals, and go God of Destruction. Like, I did like that because it did make me go from really liking the character to not liking him as much. But, that's a cool thing. Toppo being a candidate for God of Destruction was in Toriyama's original draft. Staff wondered how to handle Dispo's character, and his cocky personality was only decided once Bin Shimada was cast in the role. So obviously that's the voice actor for Dispo. Rest of the Pride Troopers were thought up by the animation staff. Ribrianne's fat transformed form was designed by Toriyama. I would say to most people that was probably pretty obvious. That did feel for sure like a Toriyama-esque character, the big fat, like, you know, Teletubby looking character. And then interestingly enough, the idea of having a cute girl transform into the fat character was added by the anime staff. I would have guessed that that was from Toriyama as well. So it is interesting to see that the animation staff were the ones that came up with that specific part. Now, neither Caulifla or Kale were in Toriyama's original draft, but during a conference meeting, the subject of Broly's popularity came up, and so the anime staff created Kale. They made her a girl so that she wouldn't be exactly the same as Broly, and then once they showed Kale to Toriyama, he created Caulifla to go alongside her. So, of course, Kale and Caulifla were a big, like, point of contention in the Dragon Ball community, right? Like, many people did not like their ridiculous and, like, sudden power-ups. You know, how they go from basically not even being able to go Super Saiyan until one day later they're, you know, basically dicking down, you know, Super Saiyan Blue Goku or whatever. Personally, I did like them. I thought, you know, the extra, like, strong female characters was cool. And Caulifla, you know, it wasn't very explicitly said or anything, but, you know, she felt kind of like a Universe 6 version of Goku in, like, that prodigy kind of sense. Personally, I am a fan of Kale and Caulifla. I do like them in the show. Toriyama's original draft included a document describing what happens to Universe 7 warriors in the tournament from beginning to an end. It included, like, you know, who Piccolo loses to and, you know, the rest, and who survives until the end of the tournament. The document included all the main points, such as the battle between Universe 7 and Universe 11. Now, Toriyama also decided on all 10 members of the Universe 7 team, including the surprise of Boo being replaced by Frieza right before the tournament began. Now, I still am very curious to see exactly what they're going to do with that. Like, I'm not sure how much I like the idea of Frieza being added to the tournament if there was no grand, like, purpose behind it, right? Like, I was kind of intrigued about the thought of Frieza maybe being... Now, I know it would be ridiculous, and I myself have complained many times about how Frieza's, you know, constantly being brought back as a villain over and over and over again, but I really liked the way Frieza was acting in the Universal Survival Arc and in the Turn of Power. It felt like he had some grand master plan, right? Like, he was aware of something that no one else was, and, like, he really had, like, some super scheme, which in Frieza's other appearances, it was never really like that. It always felt like Frieza, who was the one who was like, oh, what the fuck? You're kidding. Like, you know, oh, Goku with Super Saiyan, huh, Nani? I've got nothing to do against this. Or, you know, oh, Super Saiyan Blue, wasn't expecting that. Well, Frieza does say that he knew Goku would be way stronger, but you guys get what I'm saying. Whereas here in the Turn of Power, like, it did feel like Frieza was hiding something. Now, the way the ending of the arc is feeling incredibly rushed to me does kind of lead me to believe that Frieza is not going to have some grandiose thing, but I think Frieza might be used as a way to affect Jiren's character specifically. We'll get to that in a little bit. As the flow of the story was decided upon, Toriyama came up with the idea of Ultra Instinct, including its name and design, as a power-up for Goku that was completely different from a Super Saiyan. And I believe... Okay, yeah, there's a little bit more. So, Frieza donating his energy to Goku was not part of Toriyama's original draft. Personally, like, that's in the interview. We're going to look at a couple of the, like, their full answers in a second, but that definitely was something I felt was very in line with Frieza's character, you know, because he was trying to get revived, he was trying to fulfill his goals and further his plans, and I don't think giving energy to Goku is something that will go against his character. I felt like, you know, he wanted Goku to fight Jiren. You know, when Jiren first powers up, Frieza's like, oh, a monster is sure on the move. Like, Frieza knew he was not going to be fucking with Jiren, so I do like that. Neither was 18 and Ribrianne's fight over the differing ideas of love. I know many people were big how should I say this? But people were not fans of Ribrianne, but I know everyone loved the way 18 just kind of bitch slapped her. So, I mean, we could talk about that some more. Takami personally thinks that Toriyama might be trying to set up further stories with the ending of the Universal Survival arc, which obviously would be a plus. I personally am not ready for the ending of Goku's adventure and stuff. I do want to see more. And then keep watching until the very end on the last episode. Apparently there'll be something special. Probably, Herms himself does say it as well, but it probably will be some teaser or some trailer or something along those lines for the movie, for the Dragon Ball movie, which will happen at the end of this year. So, oh yeah, I do have this thing right here with the Pride Troopers, but alright, so here's the full interview. Let's just kind of go through and let's look at some of the interesting kind of questions and stuff here. So, when did you start making the Universal Survival arc, and what was the process like? To start off with, Dragon Ball Super is based on Toriyama Sensei's original draft. Now, I actually did see a commentary by Herms on Twitter where he mentioned that the way the producer and series director are using original draft, they kind of seem to be implying that that's like anything coming from Toriyama's hands, because they refer to the original draft both before and after Kale and Khalifa were added. And obviously that doesn't jive with the part of their story where they say, you know, they came up with Kale, showed it to Toriyama Sensei, then he drew Khalifa, and they all agreed upon that. So there's some differing thoughts with that. Alright, so that's why it's not like in the original stories that Toei Animation would make back with Dragon Ball Z, obviously referring to like filler of the movies, like Toriyama actually was, you know, outlining the plot and stuff. Instead, it's a question of how Toei Animation will depict the original draft, which Toriyama Sensei came up with. This is something we did previously know, that Toriyama would kind of create like a design for the arc or whatever, and it would have like kind of bullet points, and then he would give that to Toyotaro and also to Toei, and they would kind of interpret things in their own way. That's why the Dragon Ball Super manga and anime are slightly different. The Universal Survival arc likewise started off with an original draft from Toriyama Sensei. The draft flat out said 80 people fighting in a jumble, which is a good idea. I do like the Tournament of Power as an idea. I think the problem is that too many fodder characters were designed and placed into the tournament. I think there could have been some epic fights, like between, you know, members of other universes that weren't like, you know, Universe 7. Like, seemed like every single epic fight that had to happen in the Tournament of Power was with someone from Universe 7. I do feel as though they could have had fights with, you know, other two universes, right? Like, we did get, like, Jiren and Hit, right? But I do feel like we could have gotten amazing fights with characters that we were, like, first introduced to. I felt like way too many of the characters were just fodder bullshit. Alright, so that's right. At the time, we also received several character design images drawn by Toriyama Sensei himself. In addition, there was a design image for the Tournament of Powers arena, which the Daishinkan, or Great Priest, built. The arena's pretty wrecked by now, and then I love laughs right there. Like that. That is such an like interview thing. So the characters that were in the initial rough draft were Jiren, Topo, Dispo, and Katella, the Universe 4 God of Destruction. Were Universe 11's Pride Troopers part of Toriyama Sensei's designs? They weren't in his designs, but since Jiren and Co. all wore the same red and black suits, he allowed us to flesh it out like that. So that's interesting, because I would say that the Pride Troopers did feel very Toriyama-esque. Obviously, they're not as over the top as like the Ginyu Force, but obviously they do kind of have that, like, you know, the Toku Sentai kind of vibe there. In Sensei's initial rough draft, there was no information indicating indicating Jiren's personality. Since the tough opponents in Dragon Ball Super up until then had been cool characters like Hit or Zamasu, we thought it might be best to make Jiren very talkative. So we came up with the background of him being a hero of justice. Jiren was central to this squadron of heroes. So basically, it was kind of like Jiren was initially going to be kind of what Topo was like. Now, when we suggested that to Toriyama Sensei, he replied that Jiren is a character who doesn't speak. It was then that Toriyama Sensei sent us a backstory that his parents and martial arts master had been killed. He said that Jiren was this type of character in contrast to Hit or Zamasu. Now, I guess I understand what he's saying, because Zamasu was very, very talkative, but Hit is the same fucking thing as Jiren. They just sit there, are bland, and don't talk. So, saying in contrast to Hit, I'm not really agreeing with so much. I mean, obviously the fact that Jiren, is like a hero of justice and Hit is literally an assassin, sure, but I wouldn't say that Jiren is a contrast to Hit in any way. And then, so the characterization of Jiren that we originally came up with was passed on to Toppo. It was interesting how Toppo became a god of destruction despite talking about justice all of the time. Toriyama-sensei's background for Toppo included that he was a candidate for god of destruction, so we fleshed that out a bit. We wondered what to do with Dispo, but then once Bin Shimada was cast, he naturally took shape as a Kaki character, so the concept for him was settled. Universe 2 Ribrian's fat appearance from after she transformed was also designed by Toriyama-sensei. We took that and added in the idea that a cute girl would transform into that fat person. Obviously, we touched on that before. The Universe 6 Saiyan Caulifla was another of Toriyama-sensei characters' designs. She wasn't part of the initial rough draft. During a story conference, it was mentioned that Broly was very popular. From there, we came up with the character of Kale. We wanted a Broly-like character, but it would be boring to have exactly the same, so we made the character a girl and designed her at Toei Animation. When we showed her to Toriyama-sensei, he went along with it and drew Caulifla. So we decided to pair up Kale and Caulifla. Those two turned out incredibly well. And then it goes on to say, I think one reason they were so successful is who the voice actresses were for both Kale and Caulifla. So that is very interesting that they literally were sitting there like, yo, fam, Broly is like a fucking moneymaker. We need to get this type of popular character back in Dragon Ball Super. And then it's just like, rather than just make Broly again, it's like, fuck it, we'll make it be a girl. I love that so much, man. Alright, so how much of the story was written out in Toriyama-sensei's original draft? We did kind of see this kind of plot point before by Herms, but the course of events for the Universe 7 Warriors was written out in a document from beginning to end. For instance, who Piccolo fights and loses to, and who ultimately survives, plus the course of the battle between Universe 7 and Universe 11. All of the main points were written out. And then the questioner says, including Universe 7's 10 contestants. And then they reply, of course, Toriyama-sensei decided everyone from Goku to Frieza. The surprise of Frieza replacing Buu in the end was also Toriyama-sensei's idea. We then added in further details to Toriyama-sensei's main story. Okay, so here, they do some talking about how they felt as though Toei Animation could handle it from some gigantic fights in One Piece. Actually, I'm only just beginning to, like, watch One Piece and stuff, so the Marineford arcs, I've heard some people talking about that, but it's not really something I'm too familiar with. Alright, so series director's concerns. Okay, so yeah, they wanted to make this better than early Dragon Ball Super. That's not one of the main things I wanted to look into. They talk about the 1 hour special right here. Oh, this is actually important here. So yeah, the autumn 1 hour special. This of course was episode 10. Was it 19 and 110 or 108 and 109? Fuck, it's 109 and 110. They were surprisingly high quality. So it was decided fairly far in advance that we would do that special. So I invested personnel and money into it and planned it out with the staff. We set our sights on that episode. I was happy to hear from many fans online and elsewhere how much they enjoyed it. And of course, story-wise as well, it was an incredible fight with that initial power-up. Toriyama-sensei had given us the word Ultra Instinct and its backstory and design, so we made Goku and Jiren's fight the main event for that episode, with Ultra Instinct Omen appearing too. As we decided on the scenario's course of events and reported to Toriyama-sensei, he came back with Ultra Instinct as a power-up for Goku. Toriyama-sensei thought it up as a completely different power-up from Super Saiyan. So, very interesting right there. As they kind of, got closer and closer, they worked more out of what exactly Ultra Instinct was going to be and decided for it to debut in that fight. Obviously, I would say that that 1 hour special probably will end up being the highlight of Dragon Ball Super. I would say it was almost like universally agreed that it was incredible. Alright, so here we are. We're getting close to the end now. So before the climax, Vegeta. Even as things head into the climax, the scene of Vegeta thinking of his family still leaves an incredibly deep impression, which it does, but I do feel as though they could have made Vegeta's final scene, him going down to Jiren, could have been more epic in a number of ways. One, I do think that, like, if Vegeta, like, as he was going out, had, like, maybe begun to kind of transform into Ultra Instinct a little bit or something along those lines before he got knocked out, would have been very exciting for a lot of fans. Or even if literally Jiren was beating Vegeta down so hard, but Vegeta was, like, almost subconsciously still getting back up for Jiren to have to fight. Like, think of Rock Lee Gaara back in Naruto, where Rock Lee stands up and, like, falls unconscious on his feet. He refuses to give up. Or even, I felt it was more impactful in Dragon Ball Z when Kid Buu absolutely demolishes Vegeta. And, like, Kid Buu kind of is, like, prancing away, like, haha, beat that fucker. And Vegeta, you know, steps out of the crater covered in blood, transforms into a Super Saiyan and says, "You fucker, I'm not done yet." And Kid Buu was stunned. I thought they could have done it a little bit better to make it more like that with Vegeta and Jiren. But, you know, let's go on. It certainly does. It was like that when he died in the Majin Buu arc too. Surprisingly, Vegeta is more family-minded than even Goku. I agree. In that scene, or in that sense, even in the original manga, he's the character who changed the most from when he first appeared. I agree strongly. Before the Tournament of Power began, Vegeta was fidgety over when his child is going to be born. He even stopped training for a while, and I felt that once the Tournament of Power began, it was hard to get a grip on his anxiety at the time. I wondered if he would be able to switch into battle mode so soon after the birth of his child, but as the scenario played out, it all started to flow naturally, with him fighting for his pride and his family during the latter half. If he loses in Tournament of Power, then his universe might be destroyed and his family wiped out. Viewed in that light, I started to think Vegeta might actually be the most motivated. Although Vegeta will never say so out loud, he's hell-bent on making sure the newborn Bra-chan isn't wiped out. In that sense, I think he probably has firmer resolution than anyone. And then also add in his renewed motivation with Kabe. He does not want Kabe to die. He wants to visit planet Sadala. I think that, like, Vegeta in the Tournament of Power was the best Vegeta I think has ever been in terms of his character at any point in Dragon Ball. I really did enjoy Vegeta in the arc. And I know a lot of people are upset that, you know, he didn't defeat Jiren and stuff, but it's like, I mean, come on, what do you expect? I thought the way Vegeta was handled in the arc was incredible. Don't forget he did defeat Toppo one-on-one. Toppo's a literal fucking god of destruction, so Vegeta is stronger than at least one god of destruction. Vegeta did get enough shine. I just do think I would have liked him going out to have been done a little bit better, though. Alright, so here's something I strongly disagree with, but you have to be careful not to let Dragon Ball get too sentimental. You've got to protect the world that Toriyama-sensei created. Vegeta adds some good flavoring into the mix. I strongly disagree with this. You have to be careful not to let it get too sentimental. I think one of the problems with Dragon Ball is that it doesn't delve into that enough. Too much, it's just, oh, we got the Dragon Balls, fam, we good. Like, it's like, you know, cats are still dying out here. Like, I do feel as though some of these scenes, like, do need to go on a little longer. They need to be touched on a little bit more. Even 17 dying, like, we could have gotten a lot more from Android 18 when 17 died. I'm not a fan of this line, not letting Dragon Ball get too sentimental. I do think having it become more so would make it a lot more impactful during certain fights and stuff when, I mean, obviously we know the Dragon Balls are there to revive people, but still, like, the grief and the emotion could really make these fights a lot better. So, that's right, Vegeta isn't the sort of person to hold his own child and go, that's a good girl. He's a man of many faces, while normally he just goes, and acts standoffish. When push comes to shove, he'll do stuff like hug Trunks. That's why he's good flavoring and doesn't get too sentimental. Like Takumi-san said, since he's a character who doesn't usually express his feelings in Dragon Ball, this makes him the easiest one to express things like love for one's family. So, yeah, that's pretty good. I do like kind of that line. Here's where they talk about Frieza giving Goku some of his ki, which, you know, I talked about earlier. I do agree that that was very befitting of Frieza's character. Here they talk about 18 and Ribrianne. I'm sure people don't really want to hear too much about Ribrianne. Okay, I think this one might be interesting. So 18 and Vegeta are both people who don't ordinarily express their thoughts. They certainly don't, but Dragon Ball characters as a rule normally keep their feelings hidden, only showing them when push comes to shove. They might not say it out loud, but when the time comes, they'll protect or save everyone. Even Goku is normally very curt, but he cherishes his friend Krillin and his sons Gohan and Goten. 18 as well loves Krillin, but usually keeps quiet about it. I think Dragon Ball is fundamentally a gathering of these sorts of people. Now, unfortunately, they do forget to mention Chi-Chi here, which I think would have been a good thing. But I do think the meme of Goku is a shit father and Piccolo is his real dad, personally, like, it was funny at first, but it's not all the way true. People are so quick to forget the way Goku literally sacrificed his fucking life, died to save Gohan, and his wish was that he not be brought back because he wanted the Earth to be safe. So, I do think the Goku as a bad dad is not always completely true. Alright, so here we go. Let's get into the ending of this. Now, this is actually really interesting. So, Ultra Instinct goes into operation in episode 129, and everyone's very interested in what will happen in the final 2 episodes, but I'm sure everyone realizes this too, but in a situation like this, the story's not going to end with Goku simply firing a Kamehameha and finishing Jiren off like with the previous villain. Yes, I agree, because we know Goku is actually going to lose to Jiren. And then the interviewer asks, after all, Jiren is an evil. No, he's not. Jiren carries a lot of baggage and doesn't live his life based on malice. Ultimately, no matter who wins or loses, though they both have different stances, when the battle is over, they might feel something new, a bit like Bushido. So here we go. The producer and director appear to be implying that we're going to get some sort of, I don't want to say change of heart from Jiren, but like we're actually going to get some like real fucking emotion here. And I think with Jiren's character, I also have a few scenes I'm going to show in regarding to this. So let's just read this last part, and then I'll kind of get to the main point I wanted to get to in this video, even though I feel like this has gone on really long. So, I want children to pick up on what Jiren learns and feels from fighting Goku. I think it's probably something that can be applied in the real world too, since others won't share all the same sensibilities as you. In fact, most people don't think the same way you do. In this series, it's a physical battle, but I think everyone has had a time where they felt something when their ideas clash against someone else's. I think Toriyama Sensei's Universal Survival Arc is that sort of story. I made it with that interpretation in mind. Director Nakamura has pulled the Universal Survival Arc along until now, and the last 2 episodes feature storyboards and direction that he put his whole heart and soul into. I truly can't say anything else other than don't miss it. And then, obviously, he replies, no, it's nothing special, but still, I've never fretted over anything as much as this before. Personally, I think the ending to episode 131 is very fitting. That, of course, will be the finale of Dragon Ball Super. While the Universal Survival Arc may be Goku's story, I think it might actually be Jiren's story too. I think that was Toriyama Sensei's intention when he set up someone like Jiren as the greatest rival. Someone who's not simply evil. I made it with that interpretation in mind, but I wonder how everyone else will feel about it. I hope people's eyes are glued to director Nakamura's full force direction and the ending which Toriyama Sensei has prepared for the story. Personally, I even get the feeling that Toriyama Sensei is trying to set up even more stories. Even after the story is over, please keep watching to the end and don't change the channel. There'll be something special. Now, the thing that'll be something special at the end probably would be like a trailer or a teaser for the new movie. We still don't know a lot about it. Now, in terms of this talking about it might actually be Jiren's story and that Jiren, you know, might have kind of, not a change of heart, but Goku might change a little bit about Jiren in the course of their fight. Originally from the spoilers, I was kind of getting the indication that like Goku and Jiren would like completely tire each other out. Jiren would win, but Frieza might be able to win like from behind, like get like a surprise KO on Jiren or something along those lines. But now I'm wondering, I kind of think Jiren is going to dominate Frieza, and then we're going to go into a situation where Jiren is going to get his wish. He's going to be able to make a wish. Now, I think if Jiren goes to make his wish, and, like, these scenes I'm gonna show, like, maybe flashbacks of some of this dialogue plays, like, we actually can kind of see, like, some turmoil in Jiren. Like, let's say Universe 7 gets erased, everything is erased by Universe 11, and then Jiren uses his wish to revive all the universes. I have heard that theory before. Like, people have considered that a possibility, but I do think I'd kind of like that. Like, right here. This is where Android 17 is first talking to Jiren, and, like, they kind of begin to get the indication of what Jiren's wish is right here. Where he says, you know, even I have a wish I want granted. And then, obviously, that eventually goes into Jiren's backstory, right? So, that kind of is the beginning setup. We'll go on to the next part. So then, you know, skipping to the end, so 17's like, oh, okay, yeah, your wish is that. And then 17 kind of gets at him a little bit here, you know. You're a pretty human guy, too. And, of course, yo, I do really love Jiren is like, all right, Belmont, you motherfucker. So they start to fight a little bit. And here we go. 17, like, see? 17 is talking, kind of getting through to Jiren. Again, kind of setting up, like, a change of heart coming. Or not even really a change of heart, but just more character depth and backstory for Jiren that we have not had before. That's one reason I'm so excited for the end now. Like, see, look at this. Do you think you can make things like they were if you win? Talking about Jiren's wish. Think you could bury the past? I think 17, Vegeta, Goku, things they say to Jiren here are going to kind of set up the very end. And, of course, here we have Jiren against Vegeta right here. Notice Jiren's reaction after Vegeta talks right here. After he explains, you know what, Jiren, you are just a no-emotion motherfucker, and there's no way I'm gonna let you lose. You don't understand us, basically. Yeah, you don't know what it's like to protect something. So, boom, he says that, and look at that. Jiren's reaction, like, oh, fuck. Okay, he might have a point there. And then the final one I want to show is this. Just before Goku and Vegeta finally, or Goku and Jiren finally begin their final fight, here he is. I don't understand it. Why did they put all their faith in you? What do you reply with, Goku? Trust begets nothing. That right there, that line, that is a perfect line that could play. They could do a flashback of that line before Jiren could make a wish to revive all the universes. And then Goku just says, you really think so? And look at Jiren's reaction right here. Oh, nani! So there y'all have it. After this long interview, I actually am quite optimistic about the ending, whereas before I was very pessimistic. Let me know what y'all think about this interview, the ending of Dragon Ball Super. Do you want a new Dragon Ball series come in? Personally, I do. Hopefully, it'll be sometime soon. Thank y'all for watching. Later.